Everybody, welcome to Talking Real Estate with Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader at Champions Real Estate Team. So every Wednesday we jump on here and kind of give you an update on what's going on in the real estate market over the last 7 days and kind of give you our tips and tricks of what we're seeing. Kind of ultimately we don't have the crystal ball and can't predict the future, but based on trends and things that we see in the daily market, talking to other agents in our mastermind groups, across Omaha and things of that sort. So we kind of give you a good idea of what's going on. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, we'll love to work with you. But yeah, we just want to ultimately coach and educate you and get you in the right position to do one or the other. So let's jump in and share our graphics we do every week. So that way you guys can kind of keep it, if you follow us weekly, kind of get a rundown of what's going on. So over the last week, we've had 308 new listings going live. That's up about 25 or so from the previous week. So obviously we're getting a little bit nicer weather now. Hopefully we'll be seeing that number go up, these next coming weeks. But obviously as those are coming up, basically buyers are grabbing them and taking them off the market. So our new contracts, so pending units, is at 273, just up a little bit from last week. Sold homes is up. Sold homes are basically what happened, in the market about 45 days ago on average of when those, the lending gets taken care of and those houses close. So congratulations to those people who got a new house over the last week. But yeah, so our numbers are kind of staying similar to what we saw last week. Like I said, it's still a great time. So let's take a look at the 30,000 foot view of the Omaha and Lincoln MLS as we pull all the numbers together here. Still under that 2,000 active homes. So I did take out the no-show listings. So no-show basically is a status that they enter into the multiple listing service that maybe somebody's put in carpet paint, but they want it on the MLS so that the agents can see it. But we cannot, obviously, no-show status means we cannot show it. But that, it's out there. Maybe they have pictures, maybe they don't. So sometimes we can, get those things that come on before they come on the market. There is a strategy too I've used that I've written contracts on those no-show units. Pending, there are different strategies you can use to potentially get those sight unseen houses in that regard. So we can talk more about that if you're interested in that. So the Douglas-Sarpy County, so breaking it down a little closer to home in the Douglas-Sarpy County area, about 1,100 homes. Existing homes is just under 300. So we're up above 300, I think, was it 2 weeks ago? Then we've kind of come back down a little bit. And then our new construction, I think we're about 247 as far as the completed houses. And then the remainder, about 600 or so, are under construction in regards to that. So months of inventory went down from 2.7 to 2.4. So we're obviously those houses are going off the market. I don't think that number is probably going to be going up to in the near future here, just as we kind of continue it historically as we get into March and April. You start seeing the weather gets nicer, a lot of more buyers out there in the buyer pool. And then our average sold price is at 310, up 7% from last year. So I think, we're kind of seeing some of those prices kind of moderate lately. But as Russ and I were talking just before we got on, our mastermind meeting we just had, it was last week. We talked about, just the multiple offers we're seeing out there in the marketplace, is kind of indicative of what happened last year, where I think, we saw that 7.5% interest rates in November. We kind of went down just a little below 6%. Now we're kind of hovering right around those mid sixes, give or take. And I think people kind of normalized that that's where our interest rates are going to be here for the little, probably this, this market time, in the next couple months. And people are like, all right, let's go buy a house, because those interest rates, I think some people focus so much on the narrow mindedness or the narrow window of here's what's going on now, rather than thinking of the big picture of, those interest rates are going to go up and go down. You can always refinance if better rates come up in the future. But historically, those prices in the real estate, over time are going to increase. So if you're going to wait a little bit, you may pay a little bit more just to kind of gamble on what those interest rates are going to do. So we touched on that before in previous videos, but ultimately we want to love to coach you, educate you, get you ideas of what to do when you're buying and selling a house. So give us a holler. I'm happy to help you in that regards, but let's jump in and see what's going on the mortgage side of it with Russ. So how are we doing, Russ?
Doing pretty well. Just as you mentioned, Mark, everybody, when they think mortgage, they're the first and only thing that they seem to think is what are the rates doing? And certainly they're up just a little bit from where they were. And that, as we've talked about before, is entirely because we had a blockbuster January jobs report, a non-farm payroll report, and also inflation, although it is getting better, was a little hotter last month than what they really thought it might be. which means that's why we're going to be looking really closely at the jobs report next week and the retail inflation report that following week. A lot of folks will argue that some of those reports from January of this year were basically balancing out or adjusting numbers for the entire year, and that maybe that wasn't a totally accurate report. So the truth will be in the report over the next couple of weeks, what direction mortgage rates will go. So let's put mortgage rates aside for a moment. You hit it right on the head, Mark, that with the tremendous demand that we see out there and this very low supply of homes, it's just not likely that we're going to see an improvement in home prices. They're likely here and moving upwards because we just don't have that inventory. Supply demand is exceeding supply, and that always puts pressure on on home prices. Geez, I can't even talk. But it's important to know that if we do see that improvement in mortgage rates, certainly we can refinance and bring that payment down in the future. But if today's home is priced at $320,000, 6 months from now or a year from now, if you decide to wait, it may be priced even higher. And even if we do see mortgage rates improve, you still may be left with the same overall payment at the higher priced home next year than you would have today. So the point that Mark made, that's a totally valid one, is marry the house and date the rate. We'll right size that rate if we do see some improvement in rates. Don't focus on that so much right now, because we anticipate that could improve as the year goes on. The Fed has been very active and very vocal that they want to bring inflation down even further. And that's part of the reason why we've seen interest rates tick back up in the last couple of weeks. But having said that, if the Fed is as aggressive as they have been with their rhetoric, that likely could push us towards an economic slowdown, which usually brings mortgage rates down. And during economic slowdowns, home prices do not generally come down, folks. They generally remain stable or increase. If you want to see a chart, I'm happy to get it for you.
Yeah. And I think, when I got my license in 2008, obviously in the housing bubble with the mortgage, the financial crisis of it, we did see a lot of people starting to pull money out of the stock market and put it into real estate, because it was a better investment at that time for them to do that, to pull their money out as the stock market was being a little more volatile at that time, and put it into something that's a little more tried and true, to get that rate of return, either buying investment properties or moving, that aspect of it. So it's just a matter of what vehicles you're going to use from an investment standpoint, and where you're going to kind of protect your money, to hedge against inflation. So those are some things that we can talk about, on deeper level if you want to get more into that. But feel free to give us a holler. I'm happy to help you at any time, kind of go over, the pros and cons of each side of it and give you both sides of the story. So, I mean, from a coaching background, I coached hockey for 15 years until we had a couple kiddos, and this kind of took a little more priority, but that's kind of how my mindset thinks, is from a coach's standpoint. Get a scouting report, sat down. We're going to be listing a house next week, a great Millard tri-level over 132nd and Harrison. So that'll be coming up next week. But that's just something, sitting down with them. Hey, here's what the buyers are seeing. Here's what we're talking about in our mastermind. This is how buyers are going to be potentially writing offers. How are we going to work with that from a seller standpoint? Rather than just saying, hey, this is what we're going to do to sell your house, Well, let's get both sides of the coin of what's going on. And that's kind of how we like to work. So you can understand where we're coming from as an agent, to do what's in your best interest, to ultimately maximize your equity when you're selling a home. And then buying a home, like I said, those no-show, that might be a strategy to go after some of those no-shows. Because legally, if you write an offer to an agent, they legally have to present that offer to that seller. Now, the seller can say, no, thank you, we're going to let it go live on the market. Great. But if you make a strong enough offer, they may say, all right, you mean I don't have to get everything ready? I don't have to deep clean my house. My house is clean, but I don't have to do everything. I don't have to clean the vents and all that stuff. But, so it just depends there's different strategies out there that we can work with, tools in the tool belt for what you want to say. And obviously Russ has tons of tool belts in his belt to, from a mortgage standpoint of what's going to work for you, in each situation. So that's just something we love to talk about. That's the fun part about, I love this business, is it's a coaching aspect of it. I'm not trying to sell you real estate. That's not any fun. I mean, I'm not being transactional. It's more, hey, how can I get you in the best opportunity for you, your family, investment wise, in that regard. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I want to touch on from the real estate standpoint. But we have an event coming up, April 1st. No joke. We're having an Easter egg hunt. This will be our 8th annual. So we do it over at Walnut Grove Park, about 152nd and Q Street, just kind of right by Millard South. There's a pavilion there kind of in the center. We usually have, I think the last couple of years, we've had, 200 or so kids out there. So it's a great event. my wife and I, she loves the event because we get to stuff about 2,500 eggs. So it's a good time during March Madness to watch basketball and stuff eggs. But yeah, so April 1st, we'll probably start about 1:15. Usually kids get there about 1 o'clock. Easter Bunny be there, all that kind of fun stuff. So, but love to see you. If you have friends, kiddos, nieces, nephews, grandkids, all that kind of fun stuff. So once again, that is April 1st and Easter egg hunt out at Walnut Grove Park. So I did create an event page today on our Champions Real Estate Team Facebook page. So you can see there's more information. You don't really need to RSVP, but we'll have, the eggs out there. So appreciate everybody. Russ, you have anything you wanted to touch on or?
Nope, great stuff. Give Mark and his team a call. They'd be happy to help you.
So awesome, guys. Appreciate it. Take care and have a great rest of the week and happy March.